seasonal help and those wages. Your CDL people, that's a field that's taken off. And you're gonna be able to get them for that amount of money.
Well, I'm kind of hoping the 2 people that worked there last year, will come back. You know what it's like trying to find somebody, and even if we do go up another $1 or $2 an hour, is that going to be fair to the rest of the guys? Because they'll be close enough to the same salary.
You have to look at it like they don't get any benefits. And now a truck driver can take a truck driving job and get a $5,000 sign-on bonus. And some of them are making more money than the town manager, so it's something that everybody needs to think about.
So these wages, they're already set, or I don't know what was left in the line for money from last year.
So traditionally, we have just set a increase and kept it the same across the board of 3%. What we have run into with seasonal help in the past is because we've had to bump seasonal help to find people, we've had to take someone that's been a long-term seasonal employee and bump them up. And in the event we have to do that, we can always come back to the board for that. But these will be the numbers that you'll be initially working with.
Right.
And again, if all 3 of your laborers come back from last year, they already agreed to work for this year, and we would hope they would agree to work for this increase in the next year.
Well, it goes from year to year. We've had 2 in the past that didn't come back. One, he had taken another job somewhere else and moved closer to his family, and the other gentleman didn't come back because he wanted more money. And we opted not to pay him because it would have been the same amount that some of the guys, the full-time guys, were making.
If you think you can work for that, why, okay, but I wanted everybody to be aware that things are changing fast.
So you're saying that these guys, that 1854, 1648, and 1832, if we're gonna go up, they're gonna be pretty similar to what you are paying these full-time guys.
Correct. Well,
To make a difference.
Well, look at the one at 2130.
Yeah.
You give those guys, let's say the guy that is getting 1854 or 1832, you give him $1 or even $2, he's going to be close to the 2130 guy.
Right.
And the 2207 guy.
Right. So, if we're gonna increase, then we gotta increase substantially,
Correct.
if we're gonna increase.
Right.
Okay, so I think, as town manager said, if we can contact these guys, and I don't know when you start talking to them about coming back.
Normally end of August, 1st September.
So that, if you start talking to them then, and they indicate that because of the money, they're not coming back, I guess you'd like to have you come back to us. Is that an agreement?
Well, this is what we've been dealing with even when Glenn was the road commissioner. We dealt with this, for a year or two, even when you were road commissioner, of getting people to come. And at the time, I believe it was only $15 an hour, or 14, wasn't it, Glenn? Yeah. It was considerably a lot less than what these other guys were getting paid.
Yeah.
So in order to get the people there to be on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the winter months, it's quite a chore to ask of someone.
Oh, yeah.
And,
when the sign at McDonald's says $15 an hour, it's kind of, I'm gonna start at 15, so, Scoping.
I thought with the contract, I thought that you guys would have all this worked out.
Those part-time, the part-time people are not in the contract. Only the full-time people are.
Right, so, all right, these 3 people at the bottom.
No. And then the second.
These right here, these
Yeah,
3
those
laborers,
right,
right?
right.
Yeah. All right, these 3 laborers, if they're there and it says 1854 in the contract, that's what they get, right?
They don't have a contract.
Oh, they don't have.
That's agreed upon when they're hired.
Right.
Their wages are agreed upon when they're hired.
They don't get
What's that?
Right, so the 3 part-time seasonal laborers aren't in the labor contract, and they don't get any benefits. They get paid holidays, and that's about it. So,
They don't get the health insurance, they don't get the 401k.
And to your point, Mr. Gopian, when we did finalize the contract a year ago, we did a impromptu survey of different communities and got a pretty good idea of what long-time equipment operators were getting paid. And that's kind of what led to the 3%, 2 3/4% over the life of the 3 years of the contract. And even when we had to go out and hire folks that have experience, when we did that last year for the seasonal employees, the numbers that we landed at were pretty close to what they were asking for. So the folks we had, and it worked out pretty well this winter. Of course, it was a very light winter, but they came in, they agreed to these prices because that's what they thought they could get out on their own.
Okay.
The other thing also, I want to make note that, we're not the only town that's having this problem. In a meeting last week with other local road commissioners from the surrounding communities, right now, a lot of the towns are anywhere from 1 to 3 people short in their highway department, not including the winter help yet.
That's not a good thing.
No.
All right, looking for a motion to approve the salaries as written.
I'll make that a motion.
I have a motion and a second to approve the salaries as written. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. All right, number 3. Discuss cemetery maintenance and repairs. As I check my watch.
I thought this would be helpful for maybe some of the select board members that are fairly new or new to we need to be reminded that we have a number of cemeteries that we are responsible for. And so I thank Tammy for putting this cover sheet together that basically shows, the big one, Forest Hill, the Madison Bridge, but then you've got Kincaid that has almost 500 stones, East Madison Dam between 300 and 400, the Jewett Cemetery upwards of 3, and then you have all these smaller cemeteries. And we get calls every week in the town office that people are concerned about some of the stones and some of the condition of them in these smaller cemeteries.
So, in your packet, you have some photos. These are of the Kincaid Cemetery. Jeff and I went out there on May 19th and looked at those. You'll see photos. The first one is completely flush with the ground, so those have been there for a while. And I hope the wording, once we flip it over, we can read it. We don't know. So you can go through the packet. When you get to page 3, on the right-hand side, you'll notice one, you can barely see the screws, and then the monument itself is tipped right off the base. Somebody actually went and moved that physically off the base. And that's what brought me out there to begin with, because somebody vandalized many stones in there, and there's several other ones throughout the pictures that people went and removed. Some are this year, and some you can see rust on them, so you know that would be last year's because of the weathering. So there's many stones. So Mike Ricker, I had Mike go out there last week. On the bottom of that list that I gave you, he gave an estimate. It's anywhere from 13 to almost 15,000 to fix that area, just that cemetery.
Smoot?
You say Mike Rickett did the estimate? Does he expect to do the work?
He is, yeah, so he's our sexton.
I know in the past, we went through this a few years ago and cleaned up the cemeteries, and even the one down by Bobby's house. And we dumped quite a bit of money in and had, and we had all the appraisals done by Jimmy Elias. He did all the work. I'm just wondering if he'll do it cheaper than Mike Ricker's gonna do it. I don't know, but it's an alternative, and he has done it for us in the past, because we had quite a mess out there on Hustale Hill, that the cemetery on the right.
Jewett, yeah.
We had quite a mess that year out there where a lot of them had been tipped over and stuff. And he cleaned them all. You might want to check with him, see what he can do for you, Tammy.
Yep, we can certainly get a
Yeah.
quote from him.
Yeah.
Mike just went and fixed the Jewett cemetery that you're talking about,
Yeah.
and I believe it was 2,000 to 3,000
Yeah, I
for
know.
repairs.
I know a lot of the work, I mean, those stones that have sunk, the other ones that need repair, he can do it while he's there. He's got all the equipment to move that stuff, repair that stuff, so it'll hold up. I know that. So it might be something, like I said, he did a good job for us the last time.
Yeah, I can certainly get a quote from him. The other thing on a lot of these cemeteries, the stones are very fragile, and a lot of the wording has been weathered, so you can't barely read them. So that's something we want to think about. I have a lot of documentation from 1980 to 1990 for the smaller cemeteries on what the wording should say, even though it might not be there anymore. So maybe going forward, if we conquer a cemetery every year or a couple a year, maybe we can buy some footstones. They're anywhere from $50 to $70 and put them at the base of it. Keep the original stones up there, but put all the pertinent information of the person onto each stone. So at least we don't lose track of what things are.
Or going out and mowing these or taking care of these at this point, correct?
Correct. We're
So-
mowing them and trimming them.
So if we're mowing them and trimming them, I think we gotta prioritize which ones we wanna start with and see if we can get these back into shape. I would think. So you open?
These cemeteries here, these 13, how many of them actually we using for burial?
So there's 13, but the last one is the St. Sebastian, so that's the Catholic, so they'll maintain that one.
Yeah.
Number 12 is the Watt one on for Colby, that's brand new, so that's their own currently, and they're maintaining that. We don't do anything with that, but I did list it because it's kept at the town. Everything else, the only active cemeteries are Forest Hill and East Madison, but that doesn't mean the other cemeteries can't have burials. If a family has a lot there, they will go into that section. They usually contact Mike or the town. For instance, I have the Bridge Cemetery behind Big Apple. On record, in 1990, we had 861 burials. I know there's probably 30 that we haven't recorded in our computer system. And who knows if there's more out there. That's why I put the number a little bit higher. It could be 875. There's many out there.
No, I know I trim around some of the cemetery, the one down by my house, the Bridge Cemetery.
Mhm.
I trim around that, and I go a little bit on the other side of the fence and trim in there as well. Because everything rolls over, and so I just cut it back when I'm mowing it.
Yep.
But the thing about it is, there's probably from the fence to where the sumac stop,
Mhm.
you got 10, 15, maybe 20 feet some places there. And you got some huge trees.
I was up there with Mike last week on Friday, and there's a section of sumac that needs to get trimmed back.
Yep.
And in there, I saw 5 or 6 stones, so I don't know how many more are into the sumac. So we need to clean that out. And there's some that have fallen over the embankment in the back, so I don't know where those go. I don't know if people have picked them up and moved them, or if there really was a plot at the end. But
And
it's a lot of work in there.
right, and on the other thing on those, Moody had the right idea several years ago, and his suggestion was to take and pull out the fence, take the fence out, and then move it in like 5 feet, so when you mow, you can get mowed both sides of the fence. But ever since that discussion is on, these little locust trees have become big locust trees. And they got some big trees down that corner. Well, you was out there maybe 10 years ago or so.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, 10 or 15. And we had people from the jail coming out and helping and everything. And And that took a long process, and it's worse than now. You just love what you did, because it just grew more.
Yeah, it was so overcome that we did. We got inmates out of the jail to go to all of the, especially the outside cemeteries, the one by his house was the worst, but go to the all outside because there was little attention been given, and you had to just start all over and just cut everything back. It took quite a while, yeah, but it was a mess back then. We spent a lot of money. We had no choice. You know, we spent what we was allotted, because I believe it's the interest you could spend off that money, no more.
No,
No, it used to be.
no. So the interest is only perpetual care at Forest Hill only.
Okay. right.
So back then, they might have done something different, but currently, we're only using the interest for Forest Hill maintenance. So these small cemeteries don't have anything.
And what do we have for money to address that?
That's something we are discussing tonight. Typically, we set aside $2,000.
That's it?
Yep, $2,000 for Forest Hill, and this past year was $800 on the smaller cemeteries.
Oh, come on.
So, and that's what we have set in the next budget, I believe, too. We didn't really change those. We upped it a little bit, but not much at all.
If I could just say, our focus over the last 6 years that I've been doing budgets is in most every category, get by as little as you can. So we went back to the cemetery ordinance where we realized that we should have been applying some of that interest money to offset the cost of mowing. And so we do that. We offset the cost of mowing at Forest Hills with that interest from the Forest Hills account. But then there's also another account for maintenance outside of mowing.
Right.
But that does not generate nearly enough money to do what we need to do. So now you're looking at, as you come into the new budget, either grants that Tammy can find that will help with some of these costs, or a significant amount of capital. You're talking $100,000 to dedicate just to cemetery repair and maintenance.
I think another suggestion, and I believe what you're saying as far as cost goes. You know, my theory is do what we can this year, and then also project something, what it's gonna cost to bring these cemeteries back. And if it is $100,000, and then, we don't have to do it all in 1 year. You know, we can start raising some money to get these cemeteries back to where they should be.
Yes.
But there ain't no way you're gonna address it all this year anyway.
No.
But just get some kind of an idea so that we can justify, if we put that in the budget, why we're putting it in the budget. And I don't
Right.
see the people not going for it at town meeting.
The quote from Mike was simply to get some idea of where we're
Exactly.
going.
Yeah, so I was gonna have Mike go out to all the cemeteries, and then I can certainly get his quote and then address to Jim Elias also. And then maybe we can check with some neighboring towns to see what they do for their cemeteries as well.
Man,
I think to add to what Ron said is, you go in there and it gets cut back, and then 5-10 years later, it grows right back. You need to have a plan that will cut that back and keep it back.
Yeah.
Mowing, because most of these mowers, once a raspberry bush comes out, they back off. And somehow, I guess that needs to be put in the contract.
Yeah.
So they need to trim back and spray or something.
Bobby will.
I'm sure, well,
I do that.
But
I cut it back in Blackberry.
we're talking about more along the lines of fixing these stones, getting them upright again,
Correct.
than fences and,
Well,
is it all the
we
same?
kind of need to do everything. This past winter in the Jewett Cemetery that you're talking about on Horsetail Hill Road, somebody went and demolished some of the fence from an accident or a bucket loader. So we had to spend, I think it was about $1,000 to fix those stones in there that got hit. I think there was 5 or 6 cracked in 3 places, so they're put back together, and then we had to fix the fence. So every year, it's okay, fix the fence here, fix something there, so we're trying to keep up, but now it's too much.
The other thing too, you need an entrance. I talked to Tim about this, for the Bridge Cemetery, because people come, they drive around and say, how do you get in there? So you go up there, between the dentist's office and between your
Big Apple.
Big Apple, and you drive in there. I did that, but I didn't see anything. I said, you gotta keep going all the way to the end. But yeah, a lot of people don't know how to get in there.
We need some sort of sign, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Also,
I believe there's one up to the garage,
Where?
up to the garage in the bin, in the sign bin.
a concrete one probably?
No, it was just a regular street sign, said Bridge Cemetery.
Want me to send them up there?
Send who up there?
The people looking for the entrance?
Why would you send them up there? I'll send them back down to the
You got an entrance up there, right? That's...
So, do you have direction enough to get him?
I think it's a consensus of the board is this is something that's important that we need to prioritize. And we'll get some quotes and come back to the budget.
Maybe also too, like perpetually keep adding to the account to work on this stuff.
Right now,
I'm assuming that's what-
right now, the only way we add to that account is through lot sales. And as you're probably all aware, with the increase in the number of cremations, one lot can serve a whole family for a lifetime, where it used to be people were constantly buying casket lots. So that's, George Elias kind of guided us in the right direction to alter that a couple of years ago. But, you know, I think every few years you're gonna have to infuse a serious amount of money in because you're just not selling enough lot sales.
So, just to let you know, this was the 1st of June. We sold $10,800 in lot sales. I don't know what we've done for the month of June yet. So in our perpetual care account for Forest Hill, we have $155,000 in an investment. In the lot sales, we have $66,000. So,
And again, that generates enough money to go towards mowing.
And that's for Forest Hill though.
Right.
Forest Hill
Forest Hill.
only. So at the end of every June, I take that 10,000, send it to the investments, and earns the interest through the year.
All right, anything, all set with that? Everybody good? I'm good. Everybody all set? All right, Ms. Moody, any concerns?
Yeah, what's all this on the back page?
What's all what on the back page?
Well, you got these,
That's for executive session.
Yeah, we're not there
yeah,
yet.
that's what I wanted to hear.
We're not there yet.
Mr. Manning, any questions? Any concerns? Mr. Gopi? No. Mr. Wyatt? I'm good. Citizens?
Tammy?
Are we good?
Good.
All right. Looking for a motion to go into executive session pursuant to 1 MRS 4056E. Consult with. Okay.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second to go into executive session pursuant to 1 MRS 4056E to consult with legal advisory regarding proposed abatement settlement with Eagle Creek Renewable Energy. All those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. We are in executive session at 6:50.
Do we need to leave or?